This calls to mind for me an experience I had, I guess, when I was around 8 or 9 years old. My aunt and her boyfriend at the time picked my brother and myself up, and they were taking us on a Sunday ride, which was quite an adventure for my brother. He's about 2 years older than I. We're in the car, and we're not with our parents, and it's so exciting and beautiful day. And the adults stop at a restaurant in upstate New York to get something to eat. Well, we walked into the restaurant, and we sat at the counter, and we're waiting, and we're waiting, and we're waiting, and we're not being served. People around us are being served, but we're not being served. So after a long time, my aunt says, "Let's go." And in that moment, that was the moment when I first experienced racism firsthand. When I knew for the rest of my life that because of who I am, I was going to be judged and have to carry the burden. It was one of those extraordinary, life-changing moments that I have carried with me and that has colored so much of what I have done in my life. Fast forwarding to a few years back, I was part of a contingent from my parish church, St. Luke's in the Fields, in the Gay Pride Parade here in New York City. And the Pride Parade goes down Fifth Avenue, quite a wide boulevard, and it gets down to Washington Square Park and then makes a right to head west. Well, in that shrinking down from 4 lanes into 2, there was extraordinary feeling of intimacy. The sidewalks were crowded with folks that were all peering in and leaning in to the street I was marching in. I was overwhelmed by the experience of recalling what had happened to me all those years ago. And to know that I was in the midst of the blessing of human liberation, which is something that I can relate to personally. As a straight man, my belief in deep faith is that God loves us all equally. That one of the great revelations in terms of my relationship with God was when I accepted the fact that God saw everything that I did and knows everything that I am and loves me unquestionably and always. That was a great moment of revelation of the meaning of God's love, not only for me, but for all of humanity. Dealing with issues of race prejudice and racism in general, and how that influences my understanding of being a gay person, is profoundly connected in my life. One of the things that in fact brought me to the church was the experience of the civil rights movement. When I saw people across the board, a kind of smorgasbord of humanity, white, black, male, female, clergy, Jewish people, secular people, and experiencing all of these things, what I understood was the nature of human liberation and the potentiality of it. And there's no way that I can be as blessed as I have been for the people who sacrificed so much in their life for my liberation, not to understand the need for liberation of all people. So it's profoundly connected in my experience and understanding. If a 16-year-old girl came to me as a priest and told me she was gay and was afraid she would be going to hell as a result, I would say 2 things. I would say, first of all, whoever told you that doesn't realize that God's pay grade is way above theirs to make such a decision. And the other thing is that it's my profound belief that to be made in the image of God means to be exactly who God created us to be. To be anything else would be to deny the divine spark in which all of us are born into. I have known a number of gay priests, actually. I was fortunate enough, I'll use that term, to have come to the church as an adult. After being in the church as a child and leaving for many years. And I came back to the church in a search for meaning in life. What I discovered was way beyond anything I could have imagined. So much so that I felt I had a calling to the priesthood myself. And one of the most profound things that brought this to my life was the experience of many priests that I had the pleasure of working with and coming into contact with, many of whom were gay. What I experienced from them was a sense of God at work in their lives and at work in the world that was profoundly transformative to me in such a way that I wouldn't be in ordained life today if it wasn't for those priests.